have you all here. I'm just going to get started for the sake of time, and I know some of you may have classes later this evening, and actually there's a class in this room at 7:10, so we're going to try and breeze through this as quickly as we possibly can. But my name is Lisa Branshaw, and I am the Assistant Director of Global and Experiential Education. I advise on all of our overseas elective study abroad opportunities. So what we're going to do today is talk briefly about our winter short-term programs. These travel in January. We're going to also talk about our spring short-term programs, which travel in March over spring break. So each faculty member will present on their specific program. They'll talk briefly, and then we'll open it up to questions specific to that program. And then I will talk a little bit about our winter and spring short-term exchange opportunities, which are offered by our partner institutions that are also available for long-term study abroad. And then we'll close up with some final steps on the application process. But first off, I think it's important to just touch on why study abroad. So, there's many reasons. Some of you come to GW to pursue your graduate degree. A lot of you are looking for exposures to new sectors or perhaps new regions of interest. But I think study abroad is really a great way to enhance skills such as problem solving, flexibility, adaptability. For those of you who are coming from abroad or have traveled abroad, you know very well that these skills are definitely put to use whenever you go overseas, but they also can be applicable to a professional setting. So they're really transferable to when you're speaking to your current employer about your overseas experiences, or you're speaking to an employer in an interview. So it's also an opportunity to explore new topics or new ways of doing business, expanding your global network, so taking classes not only with diverse group of GW students, but diverse students through our short-term exchanges. And then finally, it's a really great way to advance in your degree. So a lot of students like these programs because you're taking classes when you're traditionally not in class. So they're done over academic breaks, you're completing the bulk of your coursework while you're in country, and so it allows you to earn academic credit when you're not worrying about your other classes that you have for the semester, and still finish your degree that much quicker. So I think a student that really embodies this is Nathan Morris. He's a global MBA student that just graduated. He started his program really wanting to gain exposure in Asia, and so his first year participated in the Consulting Abroad program, which is required for global MBA students. He traveled to India. He then did a short-term study abroad program to China, which he parlayed into a full semester exchange at our partner National Tsinghua University in Taiwan. So he really had 3 different unique experiences in Asia that he could talk to employers about when he was interviewing for jobs after he graduated. So that's just a little bit about why to study abroad, but now I'm going to hand it over to Professor Maddox, who's up in the corner there. We have 3 programs that are faculty-led that are going over winter break. We're going to let Professor Maddox talk first. She is coming to us live from Paris, so this is where she is hosting her study abroad program, so I think it's appropriate that she's there right now and can share a little bit about her program. So can you hear us, Professor Maddox?
I can hear you fine. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Well, bonsoir from Paris, where it's midnight right now. Are you ready for me to talk, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I thought I'd tell you a little bit about the program that I'm going to be offering. I'm actually right here. I'm here now in Paris teaching an undergraduate course. I had the opportunity to develop this short-term study abroad program in marketing, communications, and branding. It's listed under the Marketing 6248 course. And we're going to be doing a really exciting project, I think, and I want to tell you a little bit about it tonight. There's a fellow here that I got to know through actually a GW alum, and he's the vice president of TBWA in Europe. TBWA is one of the largest advertising agencies in the world, part of the Omnicom group. And so the project that we're going to be doing is with Nicolas Bordas, who is the vice president of TBWA. And I like to set up the course as an experiential learning course. So you'll actually be working on a consulting project. The course will be front-loaded. And that means that in the very beginning of the course, you'll be hearing from me, but we'll also have a visit from Nicholas, who plans to come to DC for the introduction of the project. He'll be talking to you about a concept called disruption theory, something that TBWA pioneered. And he'll be, hopefully, and this is not 100% positive yet, but bringing the CEO of a new venture airline that is going to be launched. And the consulting project that you're going to be working on will be with this airline. It's an all business class airline operating between Paris and New York. And your job as students in the class will be to work in consulting teams to develop a marketing, communications, and branding campaign for this new airline. And it's right now called La Compagnie. And there was an airline 2 years ago that started like this, and it was eventually bought out by British Airways, who basically put the thumb to it. And so this is the latest of the new ventures. The way the course is set up is not really as a lecture course, but as a consulting practicum course. So as you're putting together the project, I'll be working as your coach. And you'll do a number of interim presentations to me before we travel to Paris in January. In January, we'll have a week-long series of company visits, cultural visits, and it will culminate in a visit to TBWA where you'll be presenting your plan to the client as well as TBWA executives. And the client will then listen to what I think will be probably 3 or 4 team presentations. And kind of the really exciting thing about it is that the client then picks the team that they would hire if this were a real-world situation, and gives each team feedback on what they did well and what they can improve on. So it gives you the opportunity to get feedback not only from me as a professor and coaching as you go along, but also feedback from real-world advertising executives, high-level executives. And in addition to that, I picked up what I think is a great week to be in Paris because it's the week of the Paris sales. And so one of the other activities that we're going to do that week is to have a woman by the name of Françoise Peretti, who is active in public relations and marketing communications throughout Europe. And she represents a lot of the luxury French brands, and she'll be talking to you about the marketing of luxury brands and introducing you to the Paris sales. We're also going to be doing a trip to the Champagne country. We'll be given a lecture by the Champagne Association, and also you'll get a chance to go through some of the caves and taste champagne. And so it's going to be, I think, a really interesting combination of experiential learning where you actually get a chance to do marketing communication, to create a campaign, to get feedback and coaching from me, and then to actually go on to the agency, tour the agency, get to meet some of the executives and get actual feedback from them. So that's, I think, the course in a nutshell. And if any of you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I don't know if any of you knew anybody that took the Cranberry course last year. That was kind of this, same sort of concept of experiential learning, but this one you get to go to Paris on. Yeah.
So are there any specific questions? Yes.
I can't hear.
She has a question about the application process.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, I imagine it's pretty competitive because it's Paris after all. So I'm wondering what key things you're looking for in applicants, experience, things like that.
Okay, so the question is if there's any, kind of key things that you're looking for in applications for the program or in an applicant. So any kind of things that you're looking for in an application from students.
Yes, I'd like to know, when you apply for the program, I'd like to know, number one, if you have any experience at all in any form of marketing communications. And really, more than anything, I'd like to know why you'd like to participate in a real-world project like this, what you expect to gain from it. And I find that the people that succeed in programs like this are ones that are really looking for real-world experience. And that are excited about, you know, I guess we think Paris is really glamorous and everything, but this is really pretty intense in terms of what is expected of you, because you have to go before executives from a major world advertising agency. And so I'm really looking for people that are interested in a great experience, but also working hard and putting together a real-world campaign. And if you have any experience in marketing communications, that is always a plus. But more than anything, I think a desire to do the program is what I'm really looking for.
Any other questions for Professor Maddox? We want to let her go to bed, so.
Late night person, so don't worry about, you know, if you have questions. And I'm also very accessible by email or Skype. So if any of you have any individual questions that you want to contact me, I'm very good about getting back to people. So don't hesitate. My email, I think Lisa gave it to you, it's just maddox@GWU. So feel free to ask me any additional questions.
Okay, did you have one question? Did you have the other?
I was wondering if this is open to first-year students, right? Or is there a notation?
So the question is if it's open to first-year students, which we traditionally say for all first-year students to apply to any program. So you're still eligible even if you're in your first semester.
Yeah. And last time when I did this, we actually had applicants from a number of different programs. So it worked really well. We, with the mixture, we even had non-business school people in the program, and everyone seemed to enjoy it and do well.
So no other questions for Professor Maddox? Oh, yes, one more.
How many applicants
So the question is the limit of number of applicants. So I would say first, from a global and experiential education standpoint, the minimum is 14 students. And then as far as a maximum, Professor Maddox can answer that for her program.
I would like probably to go no more than, I guess 18 to 20 would be an ideal number for me. Because I'd like to have 4 agency teams. And by the way, part of the experience is, of course, that even though you're competitors as you go through the program, because you're pitching the business, you are going to get a chance to see other teams' ideas and presentations and hear the feedback. And by the way, another benefit of the program is that if any of you know, I'm very big on doing pitches and coaching people on doing good business presentations. So another benefit of the course is that by the time you take this course and get to TBWA and present to the client, you will be an expert presenter. And that's something that I give individual feedback to each student in the class before they go and present at TBWA.
Great. Any final questions? All right. Well, thank you very much, Linda, for joining us. If there are any other questions, students can reach you by email, or if they have any, you can tell them to me, and I can pass them along to Professor Maddox.
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to talk to you on the phone or whatever. You can reach me on a local DC number, so you don't have to call Paris. But I'd be happy to talk to anybody about it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
Sure. Can I sit in on and hear the other presentations, or is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah.
All right. So next we'll hand it off to Professor Kanungo, who is going to talk about his program to Singapore and Malaysia.
Hi. So
I see Patrick. So Patrick was with me in India, so he survived. And Nathan, the guy Nathan Morris, whose picture Lisa put up, he's the ideal student for these kinds of programs because he knew more about Delhi than I did, and I grew up in Delhi. So, and he worked very hard, and the Malaysia-Singapore program is wonderful from a locational standpoint. I don't have to talk about those places, but I will if you want me to, or if you want to know more. There are three themes to the program. One is the academic content. The academic content is open data and e-governance. And the reason I've chosen this course is I lead off the technology course in the business analytics program, which is a pan-discipline program, which we offer from the business school. We get students from all sorts of places and backgrounds. And so it's like immersing in technology. So the domain we are going to be interested in is open data, which offers us a lot of technology learning experiences. All right? In the business school, or since it's open to the university, this is really important because of two reasons. One is people are still trying to figure out how to monetize open data. So how to make money. A great example of monetizing open data is, anyone? The weather channel. The weather data are easily accessible. Those folks just repackaged weather data and sell that to you. All right? Then there's a bunch of such companies out there. So hopefully this would expose you to a few techniques which will allow you to understand a little more about open data. But the international immersion experience is even more interesting. We have a whole slew of open data initiatives in the US. Well, there's a global open data initiatives, and you'll find, although Malaysia and Singapore are really close, in fact, Singapore is at the tip of the Malaysia mainland, they are very different countries. And I'd like you to look at open data from an innovation lens, all right? And from that standpoint, it would be looking at open data from a public-private partnership standpoint. What does this mean? So what do you have to do? How is this course going to be conducted? This course is going to be conducted in a workshop seminar format. So the first half or a little more, we'll be meeting on Saturdays, and I'll be basically hand-holding you, teaching you technologies, so that you'll end up becoming quasi-experts based on what I do, and experts based on what you do, on technologies like Tableau. PowerPoints are disallowed in this course. The whole world is moving away from PowerPoints. So when we talk of presentations, you're talking of what journalists already know, the art of storytelling. All right? So essentially, one workflow would be, which I'd like to see anyone coming out of this course, is take data. In order to answer a question, do your research, answer the question in a storytelling format, hopefully which would be interactive and gives the user or the listener an immersive experience. All right? The theme, okay. Now, my Singapore partner is Atray Kankanhali. She is the Associate Dean for Research in the National University of Singapore Business School. She's just guided a PhD thesis on open data. So that will be valuable input. You can actually interact with her. In Malaysia, we'll be dealing directly with a guy called John, who's a GW PhD, who worked very closely with someone called, the ex-Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad. So we have a lot more access in Malaysia. Singapore, we don't need access because they are very good in terms of giving us access. They're much more disciplined. So in terms of having fun, I've been to Singapore twice and I've been to Malaysia twice. There are many more things to do than we'll have time for, right? But food is something I'm not going to miss, and that's something I can guide you on, and you might figure out ways if to help me find out a few more things about these places. It's a lot of hard work on your part because I will be doing, we'll be meeting those hours, 8 hours on 4 Saturdays. That's I can divide up that time easily. I've done that before with a lot of my classes, half-an-hour chunks, keep you busy. It's not going to be lectures. But after that, there's a lot of work which happens at your end in order to polish up your skills and read up a whole lot of articles on open data and on public-private partnerships. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer.
And I also would recommend checking the webpage because some of those on-campus meeting dates have recently changed to accommodate some of the holidays that were coming up. So, so we have, kind of modified those. So make sure to check those. But any other questions for Professor Fernando?
What sort of basic technological abilities do you expect?
None. For the master's programs, we expect, we say we need Python, R, this, that. Here, that's the whole idea. It's a workshop mode. So even if people come with, no one has no skills nowadays, right? So we can't make that assumption. So I hope I answered that question. So, yeah. Question?
What's the final project? Like, how is the grading done in comparison?
So the grades are distributed as follows. 2 individual projects, 20 marks each, and 1 group project, which is 60 marks. All right. The individual projects will be one based off US. So if you go to opendata.gov, it'll be a directed project, and the other individual project will be based off partly of Malaysia data, partly of Singapore data. And the group project is the one where you're supposed to wow me, and that will be a little more involved. The group project is, everything's due after we come back. Feel free to, but then again, it is a lot of mentorship, all right? So if you get stuck, we'll be able to help you out within reason. And so everything is due. I think the dates are, we'll have one big meeting, a long meeting after it's weekends, after we come back. So, and it's a week after we come back. So. By the way, it's not like everything is due in one chunk. So there's a definite workflow to this, and I won't wait for you to give it to me till you give it to me. So.
And then how much time will it later?
Approximately half and a half.
Yeah, so I think we're like 1 day less in Singapore than Malaysia. Yeah. All right.
Let me give you. I think. So we arrive Singapore on Saturday, which means you leave IAD on Thursday. Typically, Thursday night you arrive Saturday afternoon. So Sunday, Monday, and all of Tuesday you're in Singapore. Tuesday night you fly to Malaysia. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Malaysia, and Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, we're done.
And the draft itinerary is on the website, so you can check that as well. Mm-hmm. Any other questions for Professor Kanungo? All right.
Thank you.
So we'll move on next to another faculty member who unfortunately couldn't join us, mostly because it's 1 a.m. in Turkey. But Professor Accuse did have a message that he wanted to share with students. And so I'll just play it for you now. And then if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them at the end.
Merhaba from Istanbul. I'm Abdullah Akyüz. I'll be leading the course titled Business Implications of an Evolving Emerging Economy, the Case of Turkey. The primary objective of this course is to expose you to the complexities of an emerging economy. I believe understanding the dynamics of emerging economies is becoming increasingly important because a significant portion of the world output is now coming from these countries. Their dominance over global output, consumption, and employment will further increase in the years to come. So, irrespective of your nationality and location, familiarity with those economies is now a must in order to do business in today's world. We will focus on three specific topics that will help you grasp the undercurrents of the emerging economies. First, the financing of growth and the significance of finance in emerging economies. Second, implications of rising per capita income and accelerating consumption that's leading the transformation in the global economy. Finally, the real estate component of the emerging economy revolution. The course consists of 2 classes in DC and 1 week residency in Turkey. I will teach the 2 classes in early November. I will provide you with the framework of the economy and society, as well as finalizing the projects you will be working on. I plan to have 3 project teams. Each team will focus on a specific project which we will develop together based on 3 focus areas I have just highlighted. Most of the learning will come from the on-the-ground experience you will have during residency. The residency will give you ample opportunity to meet local professionals, academics, and business people who would help you understand better the functioning of the Turkish economy. We will also meet local experts who would assist you with your project. Our residency will take place in Istanbul, a fascinating city of 15 million people. Istanbul is a historically and culturally very rich city, in addition to the beauty of the Bosphorus, which divides Europe from Asia. So, in addition to doing business, you will enjoy discovering the city, traveling in history, tasting its diverse food, and meeting its people. I look forward to meeting you in person in November. See you then.
Okay.
Merhaba from
All right, so that was Professor Hughes. As I mentioned, he is currently in Turkey, so he wasn't able to join us for the session, and it is a little late, even later than for Professor Maddox. And so, does anyone have any particular questions about this program that I could answer? Yes. Yes, so again, the minimum is always going to be 14 students for any of these programs. The maximum will vary by faculty member, although in general it's usually anywhere from 16 to 20 on average. Yes. Yeah, so if we don't get 14 students, the program is canceled, and so usually what we try to do is see if students can be accommodated in other programs, or but we do have that, it's a strict minimum. So for example, if a program doesn't meet 14 applications by the application deadline, then usually that program is, you know, immediately cut off. And so yes, the applications are looking good for this program, so I wouldn't, you know, but if you're interested, we definitely recommend applying to any and all programs that you're interested in if you really want to go either this winter or spring. Other questions? Yes. Yes, so for those of you that are first-year students, you're definitely encouraged to apply. And what we would ask you to do, you can still upload an unofficial transcript. It won't have grades, but it'll just show the classes you're taking this semester. So that's a good indicator, I think, for faculty to see the classes that you'll have completed by the end of the fall semester. But if you do have undergraduate transcripts, which most of you would need to apply to these programs, so you should have those in soft copy. I would also recommend uploading your undergraduate transcripts as well, just so that there's additional academic history for faculty to see. Yes?
When will you
Okay, so you're asking all the good questions I was going to cover later. So we have the application deadline as October 1st for winter programs, and then November 2nd for our spring break programs. So typically we give faculty members a few days to review those applications, but then within a week students would know if they've been admitted to a program or not, and then after that, you know, you would have 5 business days to decide if you want to commit to the program. Committing would be submitting a $500 deposit, or if you would like to decline the opportunity. And the $500 deposit, just to mention, gets credited to your student account. So it's not money that we keep. It will show up on your account, and you can use it towards tuition or the program fee for the course. Okay? So any other questions specific to Turkey? All right, then we will move on, I believe. So now we're on to our spring break programs. So these are going to be held in March over the spring break, and we're going to start with Professor Lamoureux, who's in the back, to talk about her program to the Choctaw Nation. So just can I borrow the... So we're recording this for lecture capture for students who couldn't come. That's why we're doing the mic.
Part of my body. I never leave without my phone. So, hi everyone. I'm Professor Lamoureux, Dr. Lamoureux. Call me Kristen. I am a professor in the tourism program at GW here in the School of Business. I've been a professor here for about, I don't know, a long time, about 15, 16 years. And for the last 14 years, I've led a study abroad in the summer, which is a consulting practicum experience. It actually predates even the MBA consulting practicum that some of the MBAs participate in, but it's looking at actually working with a client and working in a destination. It's been very successful. We've gone all over the world, but this year we actually took that model and we started looking at domestic programs. So I am leading this class this year, which we're actually going to the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma. Now, many of you are thinking, well, that doesn't sound as sexy as Singapore and Turkey, I know. But I can tell you that working with Native Americans, which I've been doing now for the past about 5 years, is really quite gratifying and quite exciting. So let me tell you a little bit about just the Choctaws and why this is important. So first of all, those of you who don't know anything about Native American culture, history, or political structures, there are 542 federally recognized tribes in the United States. Each of those is a sovereign nation. So they actually have a president or a chairman or something like that that is technically on the same level as President Obama. It's the president of their nation. And so these nations exist within the United States. They have very, very interesting political structures, very interesting economic structures, and many of them, thanks to casino gambling, have now surpassed many states' budgets. For example, the Choctaws have a significantly higher national budget than the state of Oklahoma does. The Choctaws are the 3rd largest tribe in the U.S., and they have allocated something like $500 million for economic development for their people over the next 5 years. So this is in addition to everything else they do, and they do provide things like free health care to their people and other things that we can't seem to get it together as a country to do, but they have been able to do it. And so what we'll be doing in this class is we're actually going to Oklahoma, spending a portion of spring break, basically spring break, in Oklahoma with them, working with the Department of Economic Development under the direction of the chief, the tribal chief, to look at some of their hot priority economic development issues and try to help them address some of the problems that they are having. Even though they're a fairly wealthy nation, they still have many of the same problems that many developing countries have. And frankly, my career, my 20-some-odd years of doing tourism development all over the world and international development have really prepared me to kind of work in Native American areas, because there are many of the same issues like poverty, like access to things like lending, because they're nations in themselves. You can't necessarily, and many of them are on trust land, can't necessarily get a mortgage. So how, as an entrepreneur, can you access funding to start your business? Well, you can't. because you don't have any collateral. And so those funding structures are very similar to what we find in many developing countries, and it's really a fascinating exercise. And the good news is, because we are reporting directly to the chief, he's the guy that gets to make the decision. So if you've ever wanted to do something where you're actually changing and bettering a country, this is it. You know, because we're literally talking to the chief. And I talk to the chief on a regular basis, and the head of economic development reports to the chief. And many of the things that we've already been implementing that we've recommended have already been implemented. It's quite funny how quickly those things get implemented. It's a little bit of responsibility there, because you don't want to recommend bad things because they do get implemented rather quickly. But the way the class will work is we will have 5 sessions here in Washington, evening sessions, and then we will spend spring break in Oklahoma. It's a fairly inexpensive flight out to Oklahoma. They're giving us some pretty good discounts at the hotel. They'll host some dinners, et cetera, for us, so it won't be a hugely expensive study abroad. And what we will do is we will begin with a presentation when we get there to the tribal leaders with our ideas. They'll give us instant kind of feedback on what they think, and then at the end of the class, the end of the week, we'll actually present to the chief and the other tribal leaders, and they'll make decisions at that point as to what recommendations do they want to take forward. The recommendations and the projects that we expect to be working on are specific to economic development, most likely things around culture, artisan development, as well as tourism. They have a very large entrepreneur, small business grants program that they've just implemented, particularly around artisans, so we'll be looking at that. We're also looking at, they have very interesting partnerships emerging with some of the sharing economy pieces like Airbnb and Feastly, and so we're actually working on developing native huts that will be featured in Airbnb. So it's kind of old culture meets new world. And for those of you that don't know the history of the Choctaws, they're one of the 5 civilized tribes that were forced out on the Trail of Tears to walk the Trail of Tears from their native land, which is Louisiana and Mississippi, to Oklahoma and kind of reinvent themselves. And so much of what we're doing with economic development is not just about economic development, it's also about empowering them to be able to recapture their culture, which, so much of it was lost during the Trail of Tears. So it's a really interesting case of old meets new and modern problems mixed together with kind of some of the deepest historical problems that this country has. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I know it's a little bit different than your typical trip, and I do lead a study abroad every summer, but we're looking at these domestic programs, and this was an opportunity that I think is quite interesting. So I'll be here if anybody has any questions. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you have a question? Sorry? No one? Okay. Global and experiential education. So with our name change, we really wanted to also offer domestic opportunities for students to really kind of take advantage not only of the overseas component, but really kind of get some access to exciting areas within the U.S. So we're happy to have Professor Lamoureux offer her course, and her email is on the website and right here if you have any questions. We're going to follow it up with Professor Gertz, who's going to talk about his course on real estate development.
Thanks, Nancy. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. You guys are still alive. Very good, very good. So I'm Dr. Gertz, and this class is a little bit different than what the typical class is, because this is going to be part of a regular course of 6248, which is also open for qualified undergraduate students. And a part of this is that basically we're going to be doing lectures, regular lectures, until spring break. Then during spring break, we go to either Amsterdam or Berlin. And there are going to be no lectures after spring break, except one lecture where, well, it's not really a lecture. You are going to be presenting your paper based upon what you've done in either Berlin, Germany, or Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Does that sort of make sense? So I just want to make sure it's a regular class, it's a 3-credit class, but there are only lectures up until spring break, and then we're going to spend 3 days in either Amsterdam, March 9 or 11, or Berlin, March 11 to 13. And just to make sure, you have to choose one of them, but together they have to count for the minimum of 14 students, right? Mm-hmm. So you might be thinking, okay, you know, spring break, why would I want to not go to Cancun or something? I have just one word for you: Amsterdam. Okay, so now that we've resolved that issue, what are we going to do actually? The class is called Real Estate Development Cases. It has the word real estate in there. Somebody asked earlier about what do I need for a background of big data. In terms of real estate, I will provide all the background. So that applies to the MBA students. If you are an undergrad student and you want to do this, you actually need to be a qualified undergrad student, which means that you have to have taken 4201. But if you're an MBA student, I assume, or we assume, that you have certain basic background already, and the lectures leading up to the trip will be sufficient to get you up to speed. Does that make sense to everyone? So, in principle, you don't need real estate background. The topics, the particular topics, when you go to Amsterdam, it will be a portfolio management topic. So, if you're interested in portfolio analysis, again, that's a finance topic, but you're interested in how does real estate fit within a well-diversified portfolio, then Amsterdam is the place to go to. Why Amsterdam? They are investing a lot abroad. For example, one of my friends is the head of real estate investment from the second largest pension fund in the Netherlands. And he invests a lot in the United States besides all over the world. So it's really interesting to see why they do what they invest in. Because if you're going to be here in the United States, you will, for example, be competing with them, or they will be investors in projects here. So that's why you want to learn abroad what they're doing, especially when you're talking about, okay, they're going to be investing in the United States. Does that sort of make sense? Now, the one in Berlin is different. The one in Berlin is an urban redevelopment case study. You can imagine Berlin is an old city, although at a certain point it was sort of bombed to smithereens and sort of had to be rebuilt. But nevertheless, it is a very dense city, and the laws are quite different than here in the United States. It's not, the idea is not there that you sort of spread out everything. So everything is sort of more contained. So when a building has become obsolete in Berlin, it needs to be redeveloped. It needs to be reused. So the case in Berlin, the analysis in Berlin you'll be doing is basically, so how do they do that? It's basically sustainable real estate, which is a hot topic in the United States, right? You have, or everywhere to be honest, you basically have these buildings that need to be redeveloped, and frankly, Germany, but also the Netherlands, but we're going to Germany for this particular topic, is way ahead in this, for this topic than the United States, because they've been doing this already for a long period of time. They have a bigger urge to do that, and therefore we're going to go to Berlin to look at this urban redevelopment thing. Not finance related, it's a lot of economics related, demographics, why do you do it this way, why is it at this particular location, etc., etc., etc. So, to summarize, if you're finance oriented, finance interested, you probably want to go to Amsterdam. If you are more economics oriented, more urban analysis oriented, or maybe broader non-finance oriented, then you probably want to go to Berlin. That's sort of the big division. Any questions? Did I cover everything, Lisa? Mm-hmm. Good. Yes, ma'am.
When you said there's classes leading up to it, are the classes like regularly scheduled ones that we have in that module, or is this just for Saturdays?
No, correct. So, good question. You will be enrolled, are you a grad student? So you will be enrolling in 6248, which meets on Tuesday night from 7:10 till 9:40. And I can already send you, the syllabus is actually already on the website. And so it's whatever the number of lectures are is up until the spring break. And then there's an exam, because You have to do this project, but there will also be an exam leading about the material leading up to it. Any other questions? No
Okay.
questions? Man, I'm good, right? I mean, I've answered all their
Covered
questions.
everything, right?
No questions? Josh, you don't have a question? Oh, come on, make up something. What's my favorite? No, I can't do that. Well, I am Dutch. In case anybody is wondering, I am Dutch. So I speak Dutch fluently. I also speak German fluently, and I'm actually an honorary professor at the Technical University of Berlin. And that's actually a good question. The University of Amsterdam will be our host at one, and the other one, the Technical University of Berlin, will be our host. I studied at the University of Amsterdam, and like I said, the Technical University of Berlin, I'm an honorary professor there. It's not that we're going to be sitting there in the classroom. You're not going to Amsterdam or Berlin to sort of sit in the classroom, obviously. We're going to have some lectures, but we're going to be visiting projects, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, sir. Am I doing that? Sorry? Yes, I will. Oh, no, I will be there. There's one day overlap.
If to the student, both of them interest them?
Oh, yeah, some students have asked me that. How I can see this, and I don't know if Lisa is going to shoot me down now. It seems to me, if you are interested in both cities, you can go to both cities. However, you will only be paying, within the program, you will only be let's suppose you choose Amsterdam, you have to pay extra yourself if you want to stay in a hotel in Berlin. Does that make sense? For me, you can basically attend the presentations and all that stuff. And if that's not allowed, then it's not allowed.
If you have a hard time making your decision, we can talk about it. How about that?
But in principle, you choose one or the other.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, right, if you're going to go to Amsterdam, you might want to stay there longer. But yeah, if you go to Berlin, well, whatever. Again, apparently, I have to figure this detail out.
Okay.
Any other questions? Good question. Getting me in trouble. No more questions? Okay, good. No.
All right. Well, thank you, Professor Gertz. And so he is also available by email if you have any questions. We're going to hand it over to a student. So Professor Mary Granger is leading a course to Israel on information systems development and growth. She led it last year, and so we have a second-year Global MBA student, Patrick, who will talk a little bit about his experience since Professor Granger can't make it tonight.
I've never worn one of these before. Okay. As she said, my name's Patrick Lejean. I'm a second-year Global MBA, and I was on the trip to Israel last year. The course is called Technology, Growth, and Development, and one of the main questions that we look to answer with the course is, why is technology and startups growing so rapidly in Israel? They're actually, per capita, highest number of startups in the country. So you spend the course trying to figure out exactly why that is. And we took time to go to different companies and ask them questions, and that's how we kind of got our research. Some of the companies we went to were Microsoft. We went to Pluristem, which is a stem cell research company. We went to a startup incubator and multiple other companies that we went to try to figure out what is it exactly in Israel that's making startups and technology grow so quickly. But it wasn't all just research. We also had some fun, too. We spent most of our time in Tel Aviv, and we also went to Jerusalem. And during that time, we got to go to markets and taste some of the food. We went to the Dead Sea, and we also went to Caesarea and other great places around Israel that I'm sure you can look up and find that you can go see. And the food was one of the other factors that I wanted to bring out as well. You get to have great hummus and shashuka, which is a great egg, and it's got a cream sauce in it, and it's really delicious. And Prashant was there with us, actually. I wanted to call him out if you wanted to ask him any questions. He went as well. And it was overall just a really great opportunity to kind of learn about Israel and technology. And I did want to add, too, that I felt safe the whole time I was there. I never once was worried about safety. I'm sure that that was going to come up. Obviously, a year ago, it wasn't exactly the same environment that it is now. So, and I'm sure Lisa's going to touch on that a little bit, or if you have more questions about the process behind that. But when I was there was never a single time when I felt uncomfortable, and we were going out late into the evenings and walking alone occasionally. So you should be smart. Please be smart, but we're definitely very safe. Yeah, and I'll take any questions. I also wanted to add that I have pictures while we were there, and I also have some of the work that we did while we were there. So we wrote a report and also kind of journaled when we went to different companies. And if you want to look at any of those, I'll be hanging around after this if you want to look at any of that. Yeah.
So any questions about the Israel program? Yes.
We had one before we went to country. It was a Saturday. We spent the day just kind of debriefing and going over the deliverables that we were expected to do in country. And then after we got back, we spent another day kind of debriefing. And that's what.
Yeah, and I think there may be one additional session before you travel this time around.
Okay.
So there may be 2 sessions, but they're all on the website with the times listed. Okay. To address the concern for safety, I mean, I definitely think it's a valid concern. Everyone has been watching the news and seeing Israel. GW did poll its students who were scheduled to travel this fall to Israel, but I would say that GW doesn't just blanket follow the State Department travel warnings as some universities do. So they really do rely on people on the ground, and we have a very great service provider that we contract with for emergency evacuations. And we really rely on their staff on the ground to really gauge how, is it safe enough for us to send students there. So there's another short-term study abroad opportunity traveling in January to Israel. It's still scheduled to travel. It's still scheduled to run. Should anything change, we do have a cancellation policy that's available on the brochure on the website, so you can see that at the bottom of the page. But basically it just says that GW will refund you for the program fee and the tuition for the course should the course be canceled, by a decision of GW. And we unfortunately cannot cover out-of-pocket expenses. So that being said, when you go to purchase a flight, at the bottom, like right before you click purchase, it's like, do you want to spend $15 to buy this, travel insurance? So for this instance in this program, I would say yes, spend the extra $15 or whatever it costs to get the travel insurance for this flight so that you could, have that contingency. But we're still proceeding as it's an option for students, and we've been getting a lot of interest, and so we'll continue to monitor things on the ground and make a decision closer. But for now, it's a go. Okay. Any other questions for Israel? Well, Patrick is available should you have any other ones. I'm going to give the mic to talk a bit about our short-term exchanges. Thank you. Okay, so these short-term exchange programs are offered through our partner institutions. So these are partners that are specifically with the School of Business at the graduate level. And so they are completely designed and run by these partner universities abroad. It's a really great way to get a diverse classroom setting, so it's students from all over the world that are invited to participate in these programs. And so students have really enjoyed participating in them in the past. We have 3 that are running over January and spring break, and so I'm going to talk a bit about each of them, but I did want to highlight one unique difference about the short-term exchanges in comparison with traveling with a School of Business faculty member, is that for these exchanges, the credit will transfer and will apply to your degree as any other class would. The difference is that the grade will not. So the grade that you get in the class does not affect your GPA. However, you are expected to get at least a B in order to receive credit for the course. So the idea is that you would still be maintaining your standard academic performance that's expected of GW by earning at least a B, but the grade that you get, that wouldn't affect your GPA here at GW. So I did want to clarify that one piece in how these are slightly different than the faculty-led programs. So to start off with Audencia, this is a school that we have partnership with in France. We've sent students there for short-term programs for many years now. Nantes is a wonderful city. It's a historic city. It has a castle in the downtown, which is kind of nice, although not very uncommon, I guess I would say, in Europe. But it is a 2-hour train ride from Paris. The campus itself is easily accessible by tram. to the downtown. So most students, you can arrange your own lodging, so you have the flexibility of kind of picking your accommodations. Audencia will provide you assistance in selecting the accommodations. But the downtown area is easily accessible. As you can see, the students are standing in front of the school. So this is Audencia to the right, and then to the left is the tram that you take. So it's pretty easy to get to campus. But this program, I think, is really great for students who want flexibility in how long they're going abroad and what classes they're taking abroad. So the program's technically 4 weeks. And you can pick and choose if you want to go for 1 week, if you want to go for 2 weeks, if you want to go for all 4 weeks. It's really up to you. So anywhere from 1.5 credits to 10.5 credits is available on this program. And you'll find on our website there's a list of all the different courses that are offered each week. So there may be 6 different courses that you would have to choose from that you could take within 1 week. So it really allows students to kind of pick their own adventure on this program, and then Audencia would support you in, kind of your arrival and also getting to campus, but you would kind of get to have your selection of courses. There is 1 week that's taught in Brussels as well, so if you're interested in visiting that city, that's an option during week 3 as well. Copenhagen Business School, this is a new program that we're really excited about. So Copenhagen Business School is a partner of ours. We've had one healthcare MBA student study abroad there for a full semester. And this is a new program that's offered over spring break. It's something that they run. As you can see, they've invited other great business schools here in the U.S. to participate. So you'd be sharing a classroom with a lot of great MBA students. And this is really focused on sustainability and CSR, but looking at it from the perspective of Scandinavia. So there's a case study with IKEA that students did last year. And it's actually taught by a professor from UC Berkeley, but he's a visiting professor at Copenhagen. So he got his doctorate degree from Copenhagen Business School, so he's very familiar with the Scandinavian market and with sustainability and how it plays out there. But just wanted to let you know that he will be the professor. They just announced it fairly recently. So that's a 1.5 credit opportunity over spring break. And then finally, we have our opportunity with IPADE Business School in Mexico City. So it's also 1.5 credits. It's a large program, so they get over 100 students from all of their partner universities in the U.S. and around the world. The focus is really emerging markets, but Mexico as an emerging market. So the focus is going to be Mexico because really that's their area of expertise. So they bring in top business leaders from Mexico. So we had the CEO of Dole for Latin America, as well as the CEO of G&EE for Latin America, come to speak to the class. So IPADE has a really strong alumni network. They've been a business school for many years now, and they started out doing executive education, so they have amazing connections in Mexico that they share with students by inviting these guest lecturers to come in and speak. So do students have any questions about any of these opportunities? Yes? No. There's all of these partners have said there's no maximum. So really, I mean, we could kind of send whoever at this point. So there is no minimum. So if you're applying and you fulfill the requirements, it's likely that you'll go. So that is a nice thing about these programs is we aren't, kind of tied to the 14 minimum. So for none of these programs is there a language requirement. At the exchange partner institutions, all the courses are done in English, and that's a requirement for us to sign an MOU or a partnership agreement with them. Yeah. Other questions about any of these opportunities? Yes.
I have a question about the expense. Is the scholarship able to cover the expense or not?
At the scholarship, you'd have to check your scholarship letter. So I don't know the specifics of the scholarship that you would have, but just read the scholarship letter. It's likely that if the scholarship's for tuition, it's likely that this tuition would apply because this is enrolled as you're still paying GW tuition for these courses that are taught through the partner institutions, or if you're enrolled in a faculty-led program. So if you have a scholarship covering tuition, it's likely the tuition would be covered, but the program fee may not be. So the program fee is, the additional expense of traveling to the country. So sometimes it covers lodging, group transportation, some meals, and then the cultural activities that have been arranged. Okay, good question. Any other questions about the short-term programs? I did want to put a final plug for our long-term study abroad opportunities because I hope that by doing these short-term programs, It piques your interest to pursue a long-term study abroad. So we have 17 partner institutions. They're across 14 different countries, and as you can see, we have some of them listed below, but they're top business schools around the world. And it provides you access to not only, you know, kind of new academic environments, but they also offer tons of different programs that maybe GW doesn't offer here. So if you have very specific interest in, for example, luxury brand management or supply chain, they do offer courses in these areas, and so you have access to hundreds of new electives that you might not have access to here at GW. So some of these partners allow you to study for 2 months or a module. Some work on trimesters, so you're only abroad for 3 months. And then others are more traditional full-length semesters. So you can really kind of pick your experience and make the most of it. But we do send around a good number of students abroad each year on these opportunities. And if you have any interest in particular partners, we have 13 students who are currently on exchange from our partner institutions that are taking graduate classes in the School of Business this semester. So if you're interested in getting a student perspective, we can do that for you. But as far as final steps, definitely apply online on GW Passport. So as I said before, apply to any program that interests you. The application will close at 11:59 p.m. on October 1st, Eastern Standard Time. So if you are, my advice would be don't wait till the last minute to apply. You have the weekend, you can open an application, apply now. You've heard from the faculty and from some of them about what they're looking for. I would really take advantage of the personal statement because that's really kind of your opportunity to fully express your interest in any program. But those applications for faculty programs will be reviewed by the faculty member themselves. So they make the admissions decision. Short-term exchange programs, our office reviews. And then I already talked a bit about the timeline. So if there's no final questions, I would leave you with some notes. If you don't have a passport, get one. If it's going to expire, renew it. International students are eligible to participate in these programs. We just want to also make sure that you're working with the International Services Office to make sure that you're staying in compliance with your visa status here in the U.S. so that you can come back when you complete the program. But I'm happy to address any questions. I'm just going to try and get out of this room, but I'll be in the lobby since there is a class in here at 7:10. So thank you guys very much.
How